Interviews, conversations, a lot to listen to. Arroe.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Aaron Lee.
Is that how I say your name, Arroe?
Absolutely, but if it's a radio arbitron, everybody's just calling me Aaron anyway, so we're both Aarons.
All right. Well, nice to meet you, Arroe.
Dude, you got to tell me about how you put this project together for Live for Today, because from the album cover all the way through this entire song, this is a major rock project.
Well, Live for Today is it's my latest single. It's not an album. It is just a single right now, which will be later compiled into an EP. I can foresee that already because I'm already working on some other material. But, Live for Today. I had the music already carved out for a little while, and then I got some lyrics together, which always is a task for me. Lyrics are always the hardest part of the writing process, and got this thing recorded and got Frank Hannon to play a solo on it for me, Frank Hannon from Tesla. And there you have it. Then you've got Live for Today, and that comes out June 25th on all streaming platforms. I do have it available right now for streaming on my website at aaronlee.com, and you can also download it there. It's an early release, so to speak, but, with all the streaming platforms that are all over the place now, it's got a date for June 25th.
Well, I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad that you're keeping it so focused in on areas where they can go and get it, because what's happened is that the streaming has become nothing but the world's largest Tower Records. I mean, I enjoyed Tower Records, but at the same time, I also enjoyed Musicland because it was a smaller store.
Yeah, I still go to, I've got this record store in town called Audio Nerd, and they've got vinyl in there. They've got, CDs, and I love flipping through physical product. And I still, frequent, when I'm on tour, I try to find the nearest record stores in town, different states, cities, and, try to support those shops, man. And, you just see it more and more now that, they're closing shop, and, so you got to support those small record stores. But yeah, I agree,
Well, being an album nerd like I am, and I grew up in the 1970s where albums were the thing. So what album do you usually go looking for when you walk into some of those stores in those towns? I mean, because I always go looking for Kiss Alive too. What about you?
Well, Kiss Alive 2 was my very first record I bought with my own money when I was 10 years old. No, anytime I'm looking for vinyl, it's, I do have a collection of vinyl. So it's it's hard to find the old stuff that I don't have. Otherwise I probably would already have it, Some of it's just out of print, but I'm always looking for, and I'll probably never find it, The Gold Experience by Prince on vinyl. And I know it's out there somewhere. I've seen it on eBay. It's like $300 a copy, but I'm not spending $300 for that. So I always look. That's the very first thing I look for is like a certain '90s Prince record, because that's some of my favorite material by Prince was done in the '90s. So I'm always looking for those records.
Does that explain why you've got that sound about you that can go in any direction? Because, I mean, I've been on adult contemporary radio. I've done classic rock and things like that. You fit in so many different genres with your sound.
Well, thank you. It's just a natural thing that's coming out right now. There's no contrived sound or anything that I'm going for. It's just sort of what I'm latching on to, or whatever the force is latching on to me to allow me to create this music. But yeah, there is some diversity there. Which is, I've always enjoyed artists that had diversity in their albums, their material. Hey, I love AC/DC and I love ZZ Top. And what's great about those bands is they don't ever stray from their sound. Right. They've got that sound, and that's always been their sound, and it'll always be their sound. And that's great, because you can expect what you expect out of a ZZ Top record, a new, let's say, new ZZ record or something. What it's going to sound like. But, talking about Prince, I mean, yeah, he was all over the map with his sound. And some people, some listeners, it can get frustrating, I guess, for an artist to kind of be all over the map. But I really personally enjoy that, You get a little flavor of this, a little flavor of that.
When did you realize that you had I don't want to just say just the voice, but the drive to start learning the musical instruments and things like that. Because I mean, to me, it started at such an early age. What about you? Because and you can never really explain it as a kid, but yet you have to follow it.
Yeah, what's interesting with me and how I started, getting interested in playing music was when I was around 5 years old. My grandmother came over my house,
really,
and she sat me down on the couch, and she had some drumsticks and a drum practice pad, and she showed me how to hold the sticks in a traditional way, like a jazz drummer. And then she walks over to the television, and she turned on the Mike Douglas show. If you remember the Mike Douglas show back in the 70s. And then Buddy Rich was the guest, the famous drummer Buddy Rich. And so she said, "Here, watch him." And she put the sticks in my hand and everything and kind of showed me how to hit the pad and all that. And I was watching Buddy Rich. And that was my introduction to actually learning how to play drums. So drums was my first instrument.
That doesn't shock me because of the way that you play your bass guitar. Because I mean, there's a connection, and I'm one of those weird people that listens beyond vocals. I can hear stuff that's always going on in the background.
Yeah, that's cool. Some people can't do that. They just hear a song or a piece of music as a whole. They don't pick it apart, and I'm one of those people that picks it apart too. Part of what I do, but the bass playing part of it, I think that I do have a certain relationship with the drummers that I play with as a bass player, because I am a drummer as well, that I can identify certain things in a drummer's playing that I can latch onto, or maybe kind of even skirt around if I have to lock it in, kind of predicting what someone's foot or hand may be doing. You know what I'm saying? If you understand that. But so I think that all goes together, is the drums, the bass, learning both of those instruments, and knowing where they're both coming from, it does help. Yeah. Well,
you playing the drums and the bass guitar, I read a story one time where it says that both of those instruments are actually your mother's heartbeat. Is that true?
I can identify with that. Yeah. Who knows? Hey, my mom used to put headphones on me when I was a baby playing Bob Dylan records, So those big old can headphones from the 60s and 70s, and then, playing Bob Dylan records and Gordon Lightfoot records.
So now with releasing the solo music and stuff like that, like for Live Today and everything like that, what is it like for you to release solo material in an age where we know you for Y&T, but at the same time, do you feel like you're cheating on the girl?
Well, I guess I would kind of feel like that if Y&T was functional.
Right.
In the last 15, 16 months now, we haven't done anything. So I just really had to stay creative and keep my creative juices flowing, with the time that I had. And I would have really done myself a disservice if I was just sitting around my house doing nothing this whole time and didn't get anything done creatively, just waiting for the band to start back up. So, but, if Y&T was out touring, I wouldn't even have time to make new music, of the daily grind with that, which is an amazing experience all in itself, so it does take up your life when you're out there on the road. But since I've, had this time, I just figured I'd put it to good use and try to, looking back on this time, I'm going to be proud of it and say, yeah, I did accomplish something at least,
Well, I've been quoted to say that I yearn for the lockdown days. I realized it was a very dark time and stuff like that, but I loved the space. I loved waking up and having all of that room to do whatever I wanted to do. Did you feel the same way?
Say that again one more time. I'm sorry.
In other words, when during the lockout time, I mean, everything shut off for me. No movie promotions. I couldn't do anything except for wake up in the morning and have 24 hours to do whatever I wanted to do. So my creative mind was going, holy crap, we're on our way to a day where we can do anything.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that, honestly.
I mean, because creating. I mean, it's so funny because during the opening days of COVID, what happened is I'd be interviewing different performers and stuff like that, and I understand the anger and the hurt and the pain because everything's shut off.
With things being shut down at that time, we were all hoping things are going to just open back up as soon as possible, and it just kept dragging on and dragging on. It's like, wow, I would have never guessed in 1,000 years that my career would be sidelined or taken away by, you know, what was going on. I mean, I would have thought a meteor would have hit the earth first, you know? So it was shocking, and it was surprising. And, you know, when we were out on the road, on our last tour is when all this was going down, and we lost 3 shows, and luckily that's all we lost. You know, so we basically got to finish our tour. But, you know, it's still, looking back on it, it's almost like a bad dream, you know, that the way that things unfolded and where we are today, you know, and still reeling and dealing with what's going on, trying to repair and patch things up and get a move on, you know. But what's crazy, man, is how fast things are progressing now with live entertainment coming back and venues opening back up and people wanting to get out and see live music again. That's great, you know. So
yeah, I've read
bring it on.
I've read somewhere that the UK is already putting together the metal festivals and stuff like that. Would you leap over there to something like that right away, or is it something that you would hang out here in the States for? Because I mean, you can't let Live for Today to sit here all by itself on a song. It's got to be performed live. This song screams being live.
Yeah, well, to be honest, well, let me roll back a little bit. So Y&T does have a European tour booked. Yeah. It's been shuffled around here, you know, a couple times. So it's been moved out to 2022, of the fall of 2022. So we're going to be but postponing again this year. So, and you know, Europe is a place. The European tour and the UK tour for Y&T is a yearly event, and I know the fans really look forward to it, as we do. And you know, people base their time around when we're coming to their city. You know, so it's, you know, twice now that we've had to move this thing around. Yeah. But you know, we have a diehard fan base, loyal fans. They're the greatest fans on the planet, and you know, I'm sure they're going to show up in droves when we get over there, so that'll be great. But and then speaking of Live for Today being performed live, you know, I haven't even thought that far, because I would have to assemble a band. You know, I'd have to assemble a band to want to, you know, get guys to want to perform my solo material. And I'm sure I could do that. It's just, I just don't know if, you know, how busy Y&T is going to start getting again once our calendar stabilizes, and how much time I'll have to put together a solo band. I would love to get out and play the music live, you know, especially once I get some more songs written and recorded and have a fuller set. You know, that would make a lot more sense than just going out and playing 4 or 5 songs. But yeah, I mean, that could be down the road, you know, something to look forward to.
What do you miss most about being up on that live stage? Is it the fact that you can reach out there and make a connection with, you know, because one of the things I've always learned about being on that live stage is find somebody in that audience that you can connect with. Do you miss that? Yeah. All aspects of the live experience, you know, just, you know, connecting with the audience, performing the classic catalog of the Y&T music, you know, because, you know, I was a fan of the band when I was a kid, and, you know, I grew up on Y&T's music, and they've just been one of the staples for me, you know, as a fan, that I've always listened to the material my whole life. So to be able to get up there and play these songs and deliver the songs and keeping the music alive with Dave Meniketti, you know, at the helm, it's an honor, and it's a dream come true, really. You're talking about putting an EP together. Usually EPs are what, 3 to 5 songs? There's no way that you're going to stop at that, because you're too good at what you do.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. You know, my philosophy with EPs and singles is, you know, we live in the age now where there's so much music, there's so much material out there, and a lot of it's just really difficult to get ears on any new music. You know, I mean, did you know Paul McCartney put out a new record about 6-7 months ago?
I do. I absolutely do.
Okay, well, you're one of the few, because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't even know that. And, you know, I'll tell you, if like, you know, a guy like Paul McCartney puts out a record and a lot of people just, it flies right over their head, that's just crazy to think about. You know, huge artists like that, and it's even probably difficult for him to get his music heard these days with how much is going on. But, you know, releasing singles, I think, is a little more of a digestible way for, if you're a new artist, to try to get some fans, to get people interested in what you're doing. So it's not too much of a bulk of material where they go, whoa, I'm overwhelmed by all this. I don't have time to listen to all this. So, releasing a single here and there, back to back kind of thing, keeping someone's interest and engaged. And then they kind of latch on and go, well, I like this song and I like that song. Oh, he has an EP of 4 songs. Oh, that's digestible enough. I'll get that, So it just makes sense to me to do it in that way of, like a 4-song EP that I just released. And then I'll put out another 4-song EP of, new material after I put out a couple singles, So it's kind of a little assembly line, if you will.
One of the coolest things that you did was that you really connected with fans when during the pandemic in the way that you did those solo streaming concerts. And I have fallen so in love with that, because all of a sudden I was in the front row of a concert. And how is that going to change you as a musician, knowing that people did get into that relationship with those that are singing their favorite song?
Yeah, what was honestly, I mean, when I first started doing those live streams, it was a very bizarre feeling to be performing and then you get no reaction.
Right.
I'm sure there's probably a reaction on the other end of the keyboard or the screen somewhere in the world, but you're just not in the same room. So it's definitely a bizarre situation, but I've grown to accept it. And there's a certain amount of pleasure I get out of doing it. I'm really into production and stuff too. So I'm like setting up the cameras and getting the right angles and making it look good, giving it some production value. There's one thing I've been saying to people that do these live streams, give some production value, because you're going to lose people if you're just sitting there on your bed with your iPhone in front of you and your dirty laundry behind you. People might watch a song or two, but they're going to get bored with that real quick. So I decided to try to make it more of an event with a production behind it, and hopefully keep people watching a little longer. So.
Oh, I can so relate with that, because that's how I feel about podcasting. Amy Schumer can be funny on stage and in a movie, but her podcast sucks. I'm so sorry, but it does. It's in a kitchen. Oh. You can hear that they're in the kitchen. It's like, please, where's the quality? Come on, man.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. Recording music, I'm a real stickler with production, and you just want things to sound great.
Right.
I'm not a guy that just throw a mic in the middle of the room. All right, hit record. All right, that's good enough. Put it out. I come from the old school, man. I love bands like ELO. I love bands like Pink Floyd. Bands with some production value in their music. I'm really turned on by that, and and again, Prince, same thing.
Can you imagine being Jeff Lynne when John Lennon looked at him and called him an SOB, Sons of the Beatles? Sons of the Beatles, and it's like, I mean, I can't imagine Jeff Lynne standing there and being strong. I would have been weak in the knees and fallen.
Yeah. Well, obviously Jeff Lynne was a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
Listening to ELO, and then imagine, then he gets to work with a Beatle, George Harrison, so how great is that?
Who do you want to work with? Who is that one person that you would just say, oh my God, I'm going to work with this person, and because you have got a whole lineup of people that you've been with, and you're so damn level-headed, it's unbelievable.
It's like what would you say, like a bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the artists that I would hope to have worked with one day are gone already. But hey, maybe there was a time that Lenny Kravitz might need a bass player. I'd love to work with Lenny Kravitz.
Oh my God, I've experienced Lenny Kravitz. My God, we did a private showing at the radio station with Lenny Kravitz, and I had never experienced anything like that in my life.
Yeah, I've seen him many times live. In fact, there's a story that I could tell. I don't know how much time we have here, but when I did see Lenny live back in the 90s, is the "Are You Gonna Go My Way" tour, and somehow I ended up backstage. Somehow I ended up on stage and watching the show, the whole time, and his crew were giving me beers, so I was getting all buzzed up, and then next thing you know, I'm up on the drum riser, and I mean, I was invited to do this. You know, it was kind of bizarre that they had a bunch of girls up there too, and they were all dancing on the side of the stage. It was a bunch of fans, all these girls. I was the only guy, and you know, he has a woman drummer, and so they wanted me to get up on the drum riser, be the dancing boy for Cindy Blackman, I think it was. And you know, I was all buzzed up, and I was just kind of just headbanging, you know, just having a great time. But so I jumped up at the end of the song, and I turned around and I pulled my pants down and hung a BA right in front of about 5,000 people. And then I slipped off the drum riser. I knocked his Marshall amp on the ground, and Lenny turns around and he looks right up at my ass, and he's just kind of like shaking his head like, what just happened? So then I end up backstage, and I get to meet Lenny, and we're talking, and he said, hey, you're the guy that knocked my out. That was great. He loved it. He thought it was great. So we ended up smoking a joint together, and it was a cool time, man. So then there was a time that Lenny was looking for a bass player, and it was right around that time, and I didn't get a call back, but, you know, so that would be one artist I would love to be in Lenny's band.
Oh, my God. But plus, you know, he's got that control board that was once owned by the Beatles over there at Apple Records. I mean, I would love to just sit behind that damn board. Yeah.
He's another old school guy when it comes to recording. You know, he's a real vintage gear guy.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Where can people go to find out more about your music, about everything that you're doing? Because, you know, they need to give you some love and all that kind of stuff. You got some merchandise and everything to throw out in their direction?
Yeah. Everything is just at aaronlee.com. And, you know, all my links are there, the Facebook, the Instagram, all the Spotify, all that stuff. So if you just hit up aaronlee.com, you'll find what you're looking for.
I love it, man. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Aaron. The door is always going to be open for you.
Errol, I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you for having me on your show.
You bet. You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Oh, appreciate it, man. Thank you.